1999, I started a project called Youth Jams that brought together leading young change makers and activists from around the world. I started that project because I was working with a group named Youth for Environmental Sanity, and it became one of their core projects. When I started with Yes, back in 95, I was a young Christian capitalist. I'd accepted Jesus as my personal savior from watching Billy Graham on TV, and it was a real Puritan time and full of a lot of self-loathing. I was fairly indoctrinated into the system. There's no aspersion on Christians at all in this. It's just the way I held it. And I'd really drunk the societal mainstream Kool-Aid. And over my years with Yes, I started to question a lot of what I'd been taught around the economy and capitalism and mainstream society. And then when I started the Jams, we had people who were doing incredible work around the world who were sharing the most heartbreaking stories I'd ever heard. I remember a fellow from Burma sharing some stories that I never want to repeat in the rest of my life because they were so horrific. And I remember thinking, that can't be happening. The defense mechanisms came up, and of course they were happening. And I thought, okay, but the people in charge don't know that it's happening. The oil companies, in this case in Burma, they don't know. But of course they knew. And they think, okay, well now that they know, it's stopped. But of course it hadn't stopped. They were doing it willfully. They knew. The reflex that comes up, the defense mechanism that comes up is people wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. And I want to assure everyone, since the days of old, formalized by Edward Bernays in his book Propaganda, people have been made to do terrible things willfully, have been led to the trough of atrocities and eaten from it. David Icke had a great line when people would say to him, but they would never do that. And he would look at them and say, no, you would never do that. Many of the people in charge are psychopaths and sociopaths. They are deeply damaged and should be let nowhere near the levers of power. And I'm gesturing broadly at the leaders of the world right now. They would do it. It's important not to be naive about the levels of evil that are in positions of power in the world. Always have been, and especially now. They would do it. You wouldn't do it. That's an important distinction to not be naive about and not be shocked when we hear about the horrors happening in the world. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.